right, guys, welcome to another edition of Texans Unfiltered. We are blessed to be joined by Antonio Cromartie. David, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with me today. I'm super excited to talk to you. I see a potential cornerback one.
Can move very well, can play man-to-man very well.
I think that he is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes.
He does things that are so amazing, and the competitor in him is just special.
I'm excited, man, and I can't wait to get there. I think it does really fit my skill set.
All right, guys, welcome to another edition of Texans Unfiltered, a Houston football podcast for your Houston Texans. I am Young Ari Gold, and I am trying to get my green screen right. And there we go. All right. And I am joined by my friend and co-host, John Wade, the Garnet Texan. And John, we actually have a win. It's the second one of the week, or the year. I wish it was of the week. That'd be awesome if it was second one of the week. How are you feeling?
Well, I mean, we swept the Jaguars. So,
big one,
but at least we did it. We didn't mess that up. We could have gone into Jacksonville, and I mean, half of our defense is out sick, and we could have screwed it up. We could have, and we didn't. So we got that going for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't a pretty game by any means, but it was a win. Everybody got to celebrate JJ Watt's 100 sacks, so that's great. Now we can trade him. So honestly, I mean, it was a win. There's a lot to complain about in this. There's a lot to get to too. A lot about Bradley Roby. Some of the rumors going around with the trade deadline, things that weren't put out, and things of that nature. So before we get into it all, make sure you guys go follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Houston FB Pod. You can follow me on Twitter at Houston FB Pod Guy. You can follow John at John A Wade 3 on Twitter. Don't forget to follow Texans_thoughts. That's Jordan at Patrick Storm TU, and of course JRL Sports TU as well. Quick personal note: I recently got my real estate license. If you guys are looking for somebody to represent you in the house transaction, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to help you guys. If you guys are listeners, let me know. I'll do some special for you guys as well. If you guys just want to send somebody my way, really appreciate it. Trying to transition into a new career. So thank you so much. All right, John, lots to get into. And first, I guess, sorry for last week. I know we were going to do it Wednesday. We because of the election and all this other stuff. It was just one of those really weird weeks. And I don't know if you guys would have wanted us on in general Tuesday or Wednesday. Neither John or I would have really been into the stream. We both would have just been glued to CNN. So really appreciate it. And we also just don't take a lot of time off. So, we took 1 week off in 4 years during the season. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but we're sorry that we weren't here for you guys. All right, let's get into the mess. So Bradley Roby, I think that's probably the biggest story that needs to be talked about that isn't necessarily being talked about enough. John, what are your thoughts on Bradley Roby, and what do you think happened?
I don't know. It's a little concerning. It's something that the team is trying to keep hush-hush as far as I can tell. People that usually tell me stuff aren't telling me anything. So I guess they don't really want to air this dirty laundry. The only thing that I've kind of heard was Mike Adams was on a podcast, a small podcast. Mike Thomas.
Right?
I thought it was Mike Adams from last year.
I thought it was
the guy that retired.
Oh, go ahead.
So are we? What? Wait, what?
No, go ahead.
Is there something else out there that I missed?
I don't know. Go ahead.
Okay, so Mike Adams was on a small podcast. It's a Panthers podcast, and he was talking about the culture last year with the secondary group. There was somebody that really kind of killed the culture. He was out for himself and didn't want to celebrate whenever any other player in the secondary made a big play. So that came out right around the same time is the only thing, maybe. And part of me doesn't even want to say that because I don't want to give air to a rumor. I mean, it's not really a rumor if it's coming from a player, but I don't want to make assumptions about a player currently on the roster without knowing for sure. But that's the only thing that I've heard.
I heard that a veteran leader in the secondary felt that Roby gave up against Green Bay. And there was a skirmish at practice, and he was disciplined. That's what I heard.
That makes sense.
And I think based on some of the tweets that went out from John McClain and Aaron Wilson regarding disciplinary reasons, I have every reason to believe that those are true. So if Roby did mail it in and a veteran leader stepped up and called him out for it, good for that veteran leader. Roby had his worst game against Devontae Adams, and that was coming off of 6 games prior where he covered the number 1 and didn't have that kind of game. So I didn't watch the all 22 of the Green Bay game. I haven't watched a lot of all 22 of these games because, well, they're hard to sit through on the broadcast, let alone rewatching again and trying to make clips for. So that's what I heard. If that's the case, good for the veteran leader, good for Romeo for setting the precedence. That's okay.
Didn't Roby got hurt relatively early in the Green Bay game though?
Yes.
So he didn't really get hurt.
Right.
Wow. That's disappointing.
Yeah.
Because we were Roby fans. So
I'm still a Roby fan. I mean, I think these weeks, they run together. And after loss after loss after loss, I think it's hard. Any time in life when you're just taking L's, I think it's very difficult to keep that positive momentum moving. Anybody who's been down in life knows it's a lot easier to give up than it is to keep fighting. So for me, it is what it is. It sucks, but whatever. And moving on to the next week, Roby's here for the next 3 years at least. So, or 2 specifically with the contract that he could be cut by, but it kind of is what it is. But that was just something I heard. All right, trade deadline rumors. I heard that Philadelphia called about. If you had to guess, who did Philadelphia call about?
Fuller.
Nick Martin.
Nick Martin, for real? We didn't trade him.
And we didn't trade
Somebody
him.
offered us something of value because I think that Fulton would have been
not value.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it was a 6th-round pick.
Oh, I mean,
but you would have freed up his contract. You could have moved Fulton or Mance to center. Could have put Max back at left, Clemente at right. There's a lot of things. So it would have been interesting to see.
Yeah, because the interior of our line needs a shakeup. Whatever they are trying to do is definitely not working. And it's one of those things that, I mean, Nick Martin went from last year where we're like, okay, he's turned the corner. He's going to become a consistent player, to this year to what is a polite way to call him garbage? Because I don't want to call him garbage, but he's not been good this year.
Nick Martin?
And yeah,
he's garbage.
Granted, I think whomever they've had at guard plus him, it doesn't matter who's playing guard. They've all underperformed this year. Like it's been bad.
Here's the problem.
So the fact that a 6th-round pick take his contract, I probably would have been, I've been all right.
No, I agree. The problem I have with the line is the fact that we've seen them perform at a high level before, and they just it's so inconsistent. And so sure, a player should know how to play. A player should step up and do what he needs to do. But at the end of the day, if the coach is not holding them accountable, in making comments like, what do you say about Tunsil? Like, I wish he could teach me how to do it or something like that. Like, it's like, Jesus, what confidence do those offensive linemen have in Mike Devlin? And it's none, because Mike Devlin is not very good at his job. He doesn't have a ton of experience doing his job. But it's just, I point at coaching when it comes to the offensive line. I don't think it's talent. With Max, I think it's a little different. He didn't gain the weight in his lower body that he needed to gain to be able to be stronger this year. And that's on Max. So he has a season to correct it, and he will. But everybody else, outside of Tunsil, who's been stellar, and Titus, who's been pretty damn good as well. The rest of the line has been absolutely dumpster juice. I don't really think
this is entirely on the coaching staff. They tried to add layers to what they did last year when they didn't really need to. Like, we've gone some games where we're running power. We've gone some games where we're running more zone stretch. We've run games where we've done a mix. And when we started to look a little bit better this year is when we were focusing on doing a lot of zone blocking. And then the very next week, they're sitting there trying to pull guards and And we're just asking these guys to do too much and not consistently and not asking them to play to their strengths. And you can see that especially with the interior of the offensive line. Like Titus Howard and Laramie Tunsil have just been they're on another planet right now. They are both playing lights out. And same with, of course, Deshaun Watson. Like the three of them are playing great. So you would think that the center of the interior of the line would be okay. When your quarterback's playing well and your two tackles are playing well, all you have to do is stand there, essentially. Like you're not, even if you're not getting a push, just stand there and not let your quarterback get ran over. And yet they can't do that.
Yeah, the offensive line's bad. Offensive line's really bad. All right, let's move into the game. We're probably not going to talk a ton about the game tonight. I mean, we're going to recap it. We'll talk about the goods and the bads like we would normally. But I want to do a segment on everything that we got wrong this offseason because we have to own it. There was a lot that we got wrong, and I think it would make sense for us to at least recap those things since we are at the mid-season part of the season. So defense, offense, I guess we'll start with the good. Offense, Deshaun's dealing. He's in the zone no matter what people say. He's right there in every single category that you would want him to be in. He looks extremely comfortable. I forgot Texans Cap tweeted out one of the data sets that was out, something about before Bill O'Brien was fired to after. He was basically below average, and then now he's at the top of the chart in every category that you would want him to be in. Will Fuller, gets hit, when he needs to get hit. A lot of people were, skeptical of what was going on, given the trade rumors of Will Fuller and things of that nature. But we didn't get deluxe nuts, as Romeo Crennel referenced, and great for him. And we didn't hit him really until the third quarter got going, and Will took over. Brandon Cooks got involved early. Not a lot of Randall Cobb this game, not a lot of Duke, but the offense really was. It really was humming. David Johnson gets hurt. You don't want to see that happen to anybody, especially a concussion, and especially somebody that But at the end of the day, this was a blessing in disguise. Unfortunate blessing, but it was. Duke Johnson came in and immediately showed what cuts look like, how to have vision on the line. He looked a lot better than what David has looked like. He also got a lot of what David got though. Tackled before even being able to get to the line of scrimmage. There was 3 or 4 runs where there was 3 or 4 tacklers on him, defenders on him, and I think he at one point after I think it was 14 carries, he was at 1.9 yards per carry. So. Not a great showing, but he's also not used to being the back that you're expecting, or that that what is it? I always forget that what is it they call the main
Bell
load?
cow?
Yeah, the bell cow. That's it. But he looked good. You could see the difference on film. You could see the difference from Duke to David.
Yeah, I mean, Duke looked better than David did because he was actually shedding blockers and there's missed tackles, but he wasn't very productive. That's one of the tough things about it. I mean, I think just fantasy points off the top of my head, he ended up with like 17, which is not bad. Was more productive, of course, in the passing game. And it's just one of those where I think this is kind of eye-opening over this week and next week, because it'll let us see how much blame should be really sent David Johnson's way. And my first thought with a lot of the things that they were doing with Duke is it's still a lot on the scheme. Like Duke looked better. He had more juice. He shifty. He was shedding tackles. He wasn't going down the first time somebody breathed on him. And yet he still had 2.6 yards per carry. And he was working his ass off for those 2.6 yards. And so, yeah, that didn't look great at all. And sometimes the play calling is just bad. I mean, he ran like one play where he just ran straight up right behind the guard and Nick Martin, and I'm not even sure which guard it was. I think it was Quave at the time. And there was just nothing there. Nothing at all. Like, why was that power run even called when you're not getting any push? Just try and stretch it to the outside, especially with Duke. And we still don't do things to make it just easier on our running backs. Like, we really should be trying to stretch the offensive line or stretch the line. And we still don't. So, yeah, I like Duke. I love Duke. And the streak continues. If he gets more than 8 touches, we win. But I still don't know how productive those touches are going to be.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the run game is what the run game is. I don't think it's going to be any different. I'd like to see Scotty Phillips or Buddy Howell get some more carries, but I still don't think it's going to be much different with those two. If you just look at the film, I didn't watch the film this week, but like just in past games, there's just not a lot of running lanes. Both these running backs are not between the tackle runners. They shouldn't be. Duke's did better, but at the end of the day, neither one of them are Carlos Hyde or Alfred Blue. So I don't know. I don't expect anything from this run game this year. That's going to have to be an area that is completely overhauled. We're going to need 3 new running backs, and then we're going to need an offensive line coach that can come in and whip our guys into shape, because the potential is there for the offensive line. I mean, it was one of the things that we talked about coming into the season that we'll have to talk about a little bit later, but we all felt that the offensive line was going to be a lot better. And a lot of that just had to do with the continuity and the chemistry being built with all 5 starters being back. And that just wasn't the case. Anything else on Deshaun just playing the best ball of his career?
Yeah, it just sucks to be a Texans fan. We have a top 5 quarterback, and yet we still can't win football games.
Yeah.
Like, just how messed up is that? Like, this shouldn't be a pity party or anything like that, but that's the most Houston thing ever. Deshaun Watson is everything we've ever hoped for in a quarterback. And we're actually going to prove that maybe a quarterback isn't the most important person in football, because when you have a quarterback playing like a top 5 and you're still in this position, like, that's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, Deshaun really is playing at just an all-time high right now. I mean, he's seeing the field better than he's ever seen it. He's getting everybody involved. He tried to get Jordan Akins involved really as much as he could, and Akins just didn't look like he had his legs underneath him yet. I expect that to be a little bit different this week. But Deshaun's just doing everything you would expect a top 5 quarterback to do. And it sucks. It sucks to know that even with Deshaun, we still are in the position we're in. I think ultimately, that's what most fans should probably realize, is that we have Deshaun Watson at quarterback, and we are 2-6. That is just an abysmal narrative that should not be around, and it is. Yeah,
it's one of the things that should also give us hope. Like, if we get a competent coach and a competent coaching staff, when you have a quarterback like Deshaun, you should be able to rebuild quickly. Like, there shouldn't be this big teardown and rebuild process, because you've got the most important piece. And you can even argue having 2 solid tackles, having Deshaun, like, right there, that's enough of a cornerstone that a lot of franchises that are in a bad spot would give anything for. However, it is heartbreaking that we have to suffer through this year, where we've got a healthy Deshaun, we've got a healthy Will Fuller, and like, there's nothing wrong with our passing game. The reason we're not scoring in the red zone is because we can't run the ball, and we're not even being creative in the ways we're trying to run the ball and take advantage of the pieces that we have. And that's what's kind of frustrating. And then on top of that, Deshaun Watson is the most efficient running quarterback in the league right now. And he's also running less than he ever has at his entire career, which may, be part of the reason why he's as healthy as he's ever been. But that would actually, if he ran just a little bit more, there's a little bit more design runs, that would actually take a little bit of stress off the offensive line and a little bit of stress off our running backs, because we also have the worst performing running backs that have ever been with what they call a mobile quarterback. Usually it's a cheat code when you have a mobile quarterback, because it opens up other lanes for the running back, because the defense has to account for the quarterback as an extra runner. So it's always one-on-one football. And we have that, and we still can't run the ball.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, Deshaun is just, amazing. I saw a stat earlier. I think Rivers put it out. It was about the rushing attack. we've actually been 30% worse as a rushing offense since Bill O'Brien has been fired, believe it or not. Kind of crazy.
Well, I mean, he made sure that we ran it 20 times a game, regardless of anything. I mean, if anything, TK will at least give up on the rushing attack at some point.
Yeah, no, agreed. All right, the defense. No Roby. Secondary was just, bad in every facet. Opportunity to have 3 interceptions. Tyrell Adams missed one. I'll let a middle linebacker miss one in the breadbasket. That's going to happen. Your corner missing 2 in the breadbasket. Not okay, considering that they all suck. Really no other way to say it. Like all of our secondary, outside of Justin Reed and Lonnie, who at times had some bad moments in the game. And Keon Crossan, I guess. Keon Crossan came in and actually made some plays. Looked like he had a little more effort than everybody else. But the secondary itself was just a pure dumpster fire. Nobody was good. Nobody deserved to be on the field. I wish we would have saw even more John Reed. It's insane when you think about, having a guy like him and just not using him and letting him get reps is. And I get it, these coaches are trying to win games in their mind. That's what they're here to do. They're trying to win and salvage whatever reputation they may have right now. But yeah, I just don't understand how, Tramon Williams, who was picked up today, I think by the Ravens, was available as a waiver wire pickup. There's some other guys who are also available that should have been picked up and should be picked up still to this day. I just can't seem to understand or fathom why you would roll this secondary out there, considering you have 0 pass rush.
Dude, our secondary has just been one bad decision after another. For some odd reason, John Reed, who can tackle, and Keon Crossan, who can tackle, aren't on the field when there's guys that can't cover and can't tackle out there. And you know what? Maybe they don't trust Keon Crossan's coverage abilities, but he can sure as hell tackle a lot better than Philip Gain can. I mean, I don't know if it's possible to cover any worse. I'm pretty sure I can go out there and get the exact same result. I mean, Crossan and John Reed should get a lot more playing time. And for the life of me, I'm absolutely speechless why they can't. Justin Reed finally looked closer to Justin Reed. Both him and Zach Cunningham came out of the bye week actually looking closer to the players we expected them to be, which is a huge help. But our corners are just an absolute mess. Our second safety is an absolute mess. I will give Lonnie Johnson credit. He may look lost out there sometimes, probably because he was planning on playing corner all offseason when all of a sudden he's a safety. So understandably, yeah, he probably looks lost. And he's even the one play that everyone wants to pick out that he pushed back on, that wasn't his responsibility. If he was an experienced safety, he still makes the play. It's not his responsibility, but it's just knowing those little things. And you can't blame that on him. He's never played safety in his life. So you got to cut the guy a break. Like, I think that he has the physical talent to be a very good safety, but right now he's not there. But he can tackle.
He can tackle, and he's a willing tackler too, which is what you're looking for in a safety. Look, Lonnie, I had a conversation with somebody else today on a pod, and we were talking about Lonnie, and what we've done to Lonnie Johnson is just unfair. A guy spends most of his college career playing cornerback, played his first rookie year here as a cornerback, worked on all the things that you would want a cornerback to work on in the offseason. You can say it was a scam with Footwork King, or you could say, say whatever you want. He was still working on areas of his game to come in and make an improvement and develop into a better corner. And he got one snap at cornerback with all the injuries that we've had, but yet we have Michael Thomas who could have stepped into that role. And for me, that's really the biggest thing, is like the disservice that's done to Lonnie Johnson. I don't think people understand what this does. And Lonnie's been a great sport. He's embraced it. He's tweeted it out. He's talked about it in interviews. He's doing what the coaches asked him to do. But what the coaches asked them to do was put him and they basically asked him to be in a bad position and just learn on the fly. And that's just not how it works. And, a lot of people were throwing shade at Lonnie for lining up to the right on that DJ Shark touchdown. Well, there were 3 wide receivers on the right side. They were playing single high. He's going to shade over to the right side of where all the other receivers are. You would think that, one guy should be fine on the left side compared to what Lonnie was going to have to deal with. And, Lonnie should have drifted maybe a little bit earlier, but those are things that come with time. That's something that you learn as you continue down this journey of developing into a safety. And I do think he's going to be a good safety if the right coach comes in. He has everything you're looking for in a safety. He has size, he has skill, he has speed. He's a willing tackler. So I'm not really worried about Lonnie at safety. It's just more of this season. It's just kind of like an accumulation of everything else that's happened. And then you have Lonnie at safety, and he's just learning on the fly. And anybody that's learned how to do any job on the fly, you're going to struggle. Imagine doing it while you're a professional athlete every Sunday, and you're just asked to do something you've never done before. So disappointment, sure, I understand, but that disappointment should be all towards the coaches, not towards Lonnie Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, he's going from playing man corner. That's what they wanted him to be, a man corner, to playing single high safety. Like, that is complete. His eyes are in completely different spots. He's not watching the receivers now. Now he has to watch the quarterback a lot more than he had. Like, again, I get it. Like, I'm frustrated with how they've handled Lonnie Johnson, and if they're going to treat him this way, yeah, that is a wasted second-round pick. However, I do think he still has the ability to come through, and I just don't put the blame on him.
Yeah, you can't. The secondary, I don't even know what there is to talk about when it comes to these cornerbacks. Hargraves sucks. Phillip Gaines sucks. There's awful players. They shouldn't be. There's a guy in the chat that says, he's a fourth corner. He shouldn't cover Chark or Adams. Well, look, when your time is called, you need to be able to step up and not get burnt. Okay, he was burnt and then thrown back in the toaster each time. He's just not a good corner. And you're right, it's not on him. But at the end of the day, like, bro, you were given the opportunity to step up. You've been playing corner your entire life. If you're not getting it now, it's probably time to get your real estate license or something like that. So,
no, I mean, Bill Gaines shouldn't be out there. Like, we've said it already. For the life of me, I can't understand why Crossan or John Reed are not. Like, at least they've shown to be willing tacklers, regardless of anything. And Reed played outside corner in college. I mean, he's undersized for it in the NFL, but be undersized, but at least being able to cover somebody's a lot better than being the right size and not being within 10 feet of somebody.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Zach Cunningham had a great game. Justin Reed had a great game. Justin Reed and Zach both look re-energized. They look rejuvenated. It looked like they focused on some film. Zach still had his arm tackles that he really is famous for now that he's getting paid so much. So I think that's really what has probably brought the attention to him. But he had his best game of the season. I know he said that he didn't have his best game of the season, but that was his best game of the season, hands down. That's the Zach Cunningham we paid. That's the Zach Cunningham we expect to see for the rest of the season. And Justin Reed is I mean, he played great and he played a lot better than what he's played. And he's really been hard on himself. He's really talked about it a lot, how he needs to step up. And it was nice to be able to see that those words translate. Outside of that, the defensive line was, Tyrell Adams also played another great game. He's really becoming a player. It's going to be interesting to see, what we do with Tyrell in the future. But he looks like he'd be a nice piece next to Zach Cunningham for the next couple of years. Defensive line is the defensive line. Like, they all are bad. They're all awful. All of them. Jonathan Grenard had some moments, and that was great. That was really
Grenard looked better than Scarlett. I mean, we could have easily all predicted that. I don't know, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago,
7 weeks ago,
7 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago. I think we even said it from the beginning of the season. Like, Grenard was not great, but he was better than Scarlett. And our run defense, granted, we did get gashed, looked a little bit more disciplined, like steps forward. Oh, yeah, definitely step 7. Like, we're not going to sugarcoat it. This week is going to be, like, on our defense, it's going to be bad. But
yeah, and if you guys are looking for a Browns preview, me and John just did a Browns podcast. So if you guys are looking to hear what our thoughts are on the Browns game, make sure you guys go follow Dogs of War podcast on YouTube. Really cool guys too. Really, really cool guys. So if you guys are looking for a good, interesting conversation, that was a good one. Tony Ayo, thank you so much for the congratulations on my real estate license. I appreciate it. All right. Grenard was great. Not great. Let's not say great, because really nobody on the defense was great. But he definitely showed that he belongs on the field opposite of Whitney, potentially opposite of Jacob Martin if that happens. But that's it. I mean, Ross got a lot of.
I'm just going to throw it out there. When we say he's better than Scarlett, he gets a D instead of an F. But for it's his first game with meaningful snaps, go out there and get a D. It's barely passing, and he can improve on it. Granted, that how do you say it? Luden?
What?
The name of the quarterback on the Jaguars, is it Luton?
We'll never say
Luton. I know, so I'm not going to worry about learning it. But yeah, he did stiff arm him, so there was that.
Yeah, there was. And he also put Michael Thomas in a spin cycle. So there's that as well. Ross Blacklock, played some meaningful snaps. Looks like he's starting to develop. Why he is not just on the field 100% of the snaps makes zero sense to me. I really don't care that the veteran year thing narrative was created. It's over now. Like, there's no reason for us to have that conversation. Ross should be on there at all times. There's no reason for him to not be on the field. Develop, and let's make sure that we have a guy to build around next year. And I think that's really about it on the defense.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. At this point, nobody's rookies anymore. The season's halfway done. Just let the younger guys play. I mean, we know Hargreaves isn't coming back next year. We know Philip Gain isn't coming back next year. Like, just let the young guys play. I don't know if Mark's coming back next year or not, but Scarlett might, because Scarlett can, for some reason, he can tackle people on special teams, but on defense he can't, which escapes me. So who knows? But at this point, let Grenard play. Ross Blacklock needs to be out there every single snap. Again, it's the same thing with Blacklock as it was with Grenard. He wasn't great. He wasn't even good. But he showed potential. I mean, he showed something. And again, first game with meaningful snaps. Let him get more snaps. It's the only way he's going to get better.
Yeah, I would say that Charles, Ross should both be getting 100% of the snaps. Those are your two guys that are going to be here next year that need to develop more. Charles has been a disappointment so far. And I don't know. I don't see why the young guys aren't playing. It makes no sense. We're at the point of the season now where, sure, you go 8-8 and maybe you make the playoffs if they add that additional team to the NFL playoffs. But I mean, outside of that, you really have a long shot. Charles Omenihu's who's been a disappointment this year. I expected him to really come on this year. I thought this was going to be the year where we started to feel pretty good about another guy on the D line. He's had moments where he's been good, but there's been a lack of consistency when it comes to Charles Omenihu. And, I really think he needs to just spend some more time in the film room and understanding his gap disciplines and things of that nature. Needs to get stronger too. He just doesn't look very strong out there. And so he's not able to get off blocks as fast as you would like. Those long arms don't seem to be helping him in any way. And he's been a disappointment. He's been a complete disappointment. All right, let's get to the episode, the segment where we got it all wrong. There's a lot to get wrong. I guess we'll start with David Johnson. I got it all wrong. I got it all. I thought it was optimistic. I believe that there was a chance that maybe he could have at least been average or above average. He has not. He has not been. He's been bad this year. I will say this, though. I will say that the running lanes are not there. The offensive scheme does not fit his play style. And he's been extremely bad. But at the end of the day, he also goes down on first contact. He's not able to cut the way you would like. Duke showed us what cutting looks like. I was wrong about David Johnson, and I own that. John, what were you wrong about this offseason?
I was also wrong about both David and Duke Johnson. I thought that we were going to get the running backs involved in the passing game. Like, you look at the personnel that we're going to bring in. You look at what Deshaun is capable of doing. You look at what even, the so-called Bill O'Brien offense that's based on the Patriots. What did they do? They fed their running backs short passes, and I thought that was going to happen. And both of them are on pace to have their worst receiving years ever. So naturally, when you get two receiving backs and yet you refuse to throw the ball to them, naturally good things do not happen.
Yeah. No. Also, real quick, I'm going to be at Twin Peaks on Sunday, meeting a bunch of listeners. If you guys want to come, I'm going to 59 in Kirby, Twin Peaks. So yeah, Swan's coming, Jules is coming, Andrew's coming, Sam's coming. There's a lot of y'all. I got to reach out to a couple other people. Level Dreaded, don't forget Twin Peaks on Kirby on Sunday. So I was wrong about the offensive line. Everybody was wrong about the offensive line. Offensive line should have been better this year. Offensive line should have been a lot better this year. They should have taken a step forward as a unit, and the interior of the line has taken a complete step backwards. It's it's coaching. We talked about it early on. I don't want to spend too much about it, but I was wrong about the offensive line. John, what were you wrong about? What else were you wrong about?
Just kind of piggyback on your thing. I will not be in Houston. My family is starting our quarantine because our baby is due in 3 weeks.
Nice.
So I may miss a week or two coming up here shortly. That's why. That would be good news. That means baby's here. So exciting. What I was wrong about was cornerback depth. I did not think that we would have a great cornerback, but I thought cornerback room, but I thought we would have at least an average with depth. And Conley gets hurt. That was big because Gary and Conley and Bradley Roby both out there. That makes a big difference. But him getting hurt, I didn't realize would be the one domino that makes it all fall. Then the second domino is they decide Lonnie Johnson's not a corner. Who would have thought? We were sitting there wondering if he's going to come in and start. I mean, we had the pleasure of talking with the Footwork King, James did specifically, and James was really high on it. Said that we talked with Lonnie himself, and he had really focused on his footwork, really focused on getting his hips right. I mean, he's a bigger corner, so that was a struggle. And he was excited to play corner. One snap, now he's a safety. It's like, oh, well, there's two dominoes, so half the depth on our cornerbacks are gone. And for whatever reason, we also refused to play our rookie, who, yeah, he was undersized, but I was really excited about John Reed. Like, if you go look at his tape at Penn State, like he looks like he's a kid that can actually play, but they're not going to let him play. So, and then you got Keon Crossan, who part of the reason that we brought him over we actually traded a 6th-round pick for him, is he was a special teams guy, excellent tackler, but had upside as a corner, and we don't let him play. Instead, we are essentially relying on Hargreaves, who looks horrible, and Philip Gain, who has been probably the worst starting corner in the league because, he has started. And, I don't understand. But I was definitely wrong because I didn't think that was the path we would go down.
Yeah, I was wrong about the secondary as well. I thought I didn't know how bad Conley's injury was, or else I would have had some concerns. But I do still stand by if Conley and Roby were playing corner, that the secondary would be a lot better. You guys all know how I feel about Conley. I'm hoping that Conley is back now on a much cheaper deal next year, but it's all going to be dependent on what this coaching staff and defensive coordinator does from a schematic purpose. Where else was I wrong? I was wrong on being optimistic about this team. I thought they could be 9-7, 10-6. I thought we'd win the AFC South. A lot of it had to do with just the talent on offense. I still am. I still feel I am right about the wide receivers and the weapons around Deshaun. I think a lot of it that isn't working or wasn't working is more schematics and play calling than anything else. I do think that there are weapons, and I do think that we have the right weapons surrounding Deshaun Watson. I just don't think that it worked early enough for it to matter. But I was wrong. I thought we'd win the AFC South, and we didn't, and the Colts are going to. John, what else were you wrong on?
Just being optimistic on the team in general. There was a lot of warning signs out there. Coming into the season with a rookie play caller on offense and a rookie defensive coordinator. And yet we thought that there was talent to kind of overcome it. We had probably the most stability from year to year that the Texans ever have. And we thought that stability was going to kind of carry through. It's like, okay, we've got these guys that are new to their positions, but the team in general should know what they're doing. Instead, our team looks like it's suffering from a lack of coaching. And this wasn't at one point. I mean, you've got Tater Smith, the QB coach guru. I don't even think he's even the QB coach anymore. And Bill O'Brien were our two most experienced coaches because Rack was doing the part-time head coach. So guys actually on the field, and Bill O'Brien's now gone. And he just tried to build this coaching staff out of youth, and these guys weren't ready. And you can definitely tell because our team is definitely suffering from a lack of good coaching.
Yeah, I would agree. What else did I get wrong? There was one more I got wrong. Oh, I said that the defense after the bye week would be clicking. I said that they would be fine. They would be at least average to maybe a little below average, and I was totally wrong. They're worse off than what they were. And yeah, I was just wrong. That defense is bad. It's going to be bad the rest of the season. But we are not losing because Hopkins is in here, just FYI. But I think we would have blown up a lot sooner if Hopkins was still here, to be honest with you. John, anything else you were wrong about?
No, I mean, I think we've just about covered it. I mean, at this point, we were wrong about a lot. And that's a combination of a lot of things that, like with the offensive line, did we really expect all three of our interior offensive linemen to have the worst seasons of their career at the same time?
No.
Like, how does that happen that quickly? But it does. Did we, with the corners, did we really expect our coaching staff to build what looked like to be a little bit of depth there and then just forget it? Like, we knew safety was going to be an issue. There was never any hesitation that safety was going to be an issue. And yeah, of course, safety is an issue. Like, we told you that all summer, but we thought it would be okay. But once we had our two keystone players on our defense, which is Zach Cunningham and Justin Reed, also playing below average, like, yeah, well, then at that point, there's nothing you can do. Like, the middle of the defense is playing below average. You already have holes, and now you don't have anybody that can play corner. Yeah, it's all crap. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's bad. All right. Let's get to, before Jordan gets here, where are you at with your head coaching search? I know we differ. So who's your top candidate right now?
Right now, it's still Robert Saleh. Bring him in. Bring somebody from the Shanahan. Yeah, bring somebody from the yeah. What they've had to do with all the injuries on the Niners, and then get somebody from the Shanahan coaching tree on offense. Like, that's the thing that I want the most. Like, the zone blocking, mobile pocket. Like, I think that Sean will absolutely kill in that. Like, I think that if 49, if the rumors were the 49ers were actually going to try and get Deshaun, and that would have made a dynasty out there. Like, Shanahan's offense with Deshaun Watson would just be unstoppable, in my opinion. So if we can get some sort of that same offense, and I like Saleh's, like, I like him. Like, if you just listen to him speak and how he deals with the media and things like that, I think he'd be a welcome breath of fresh air here. I also do like Eberflus. What he did in Indianapolis with no talent whatsoever is actually very, very impressive. But yeah, those are essentially my two guys.
Interesting. Let's see. I want to look at the 49ers schedule since we have some time before Jordan comes for question and answers. So they gave up. Everybody talked about how they gave up 43 to the Dolphins. And that wasn't really concerning to me. I mean, it is. It sucks. But it was more the fact that they gave up 25 to the Eagles and lost. because the Eagles only threw to Greg Ward Jr. because they have nobody else on their team. But then you look, they give up 37 to the Seahawks, 34 to the Packers, 43 to the Dolphins, 25 to the Eagles, 24 to the Cardinals in the opening game when everybody was healthy. I don't know, man. I just, did you hear the Mina Kimes podcast where he was almost fired in the offseason because of his performance on defense?
I did not hear that.
Yeah. I just
yeah.
don't.
I mean, it's just what they put together with all the injuries that they always have, or they've had this year. And part of it, though, is it's personality. Like, if you look at Vrabel should have never been a head coach after the performance of his defense here. But if you get a guy that is more, I think Saleh would be more of a CEO type coach. Actually bring in guys and let them do what they're supposed to. That's just the impression that I've gotten from hearing him speak. Like, that's the biggest thing. I don't think that he would come here and try and run the defense. If he came in here and he was trying to run the defense, I'd have more hesitation. But just based on how he speaks and how people react to them, I don't think that would happen. So I think that's why I'm leaning towards him. However, I have rights to change my mind whenever I want. And especially because there's warts on every single candidate out there. Like, you can go out there and you can pick out bad games. You can pick out, like, why'd they do this or why'd they do that, or things in their history. Like, there's not a perfect candidate, but there's a lot of very interesting ones. And to me, I just want that Shanahan offense. Like, and of the guys that I think would bring that offense, I think Robert Saleh would be the best out of that group.
Angus, I would rather have Eberflus over Saleh or Saleh or Saleh, whatever his name is. Garrick Jones for GM. Yeah, no. Look, I had an interaction with him today. Garrick is a great guy. He, he's very, very, fiery and passionate, and I appreciate the hustle that it takes to try to build a campaign as a normal human being to be general manager of the Houston Texans. But I'll ask you guys, like I asked him, what makes him more qualified than Ozzie Newsome, Horowitz, Dodds, or any other general manager that has constructed an offense, or a roster? On top of that, this team is not in a position to sit and watch and wait while a GM learns how to do his job. We don't have time for mistakes. We can't handle mistakes. If you want this to be a quick turnaround, you need somebody to come in that can maximize the roster talent, add to it in the areas that is needed, and turn it around a lot quicker. Nothing against Garrick. Good dude, and he knows it. I meant no disrespect in any way. I appreciate the fact that he is clamoring and fighting for a position that he would like to have. That is what America is about. That's what we're about. I am all for it, and I'm not trying to shit on his dreams in any way. But this city, look, I'll tell you right now, if this fan base was bad during Bill O'Brien, how do you think that they are going to feel when you hire somebody who has no experience? You might as well just let Jack Easterby be the general manager. There's no difference, right? No football experience. Look, he was a player. I get it. I played too. Tons of people have played. That means nothing. I've probably scouted more than he has. So at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful to Garrick. I understand, but no. Not at all. There's no reason for it. It's a pipe dream. I'm glad he's getting all these interviews. That's great. I wish some of them would ask him a real tough questions instead of these layups on what you would do and things of that nature. I want to know why he thinks he should get a job over Dobbs. I want to know why he thinks that how he has no contract negotiation experience, no scouting experience, no roster building experience, no front office management experience, no trade negotiation experience, no chemistry experience. Like those are all the things that we need. It just makes no sense. Look, I'm sorry. Great dude, but I'm good.
I hope he gets a job in somebody's front office, but he's not ready to be a GM. And you forget that with being a GM, that's only half of it. The football side is only half of it. The other half is actually putting the organization together. So I don't think that he needs to be a part of a football organization before he can be GM. And like, it's a great story, and I hope it works out. And if he goes somewhere else and he does a great job and gets a chance, like, that's awesome.
If he comes here,
more power to him.
On like in some form or fashion, player development or whatever, great. I agree with you, John. I agree.
But he just needs to get the experience first, in my opinion. But what do I know? We're just on a podcast. All right, I'm gonna bring Jordan on.
How you guys doing today?
Hey there, little guy. Pat, yeah, you like my Groove Life watch? A little hater. Anyways, hi, Jordan.
How you doing?
Good, dude. Good to see you. Take us through some questions.
All right, questions today. We got one from a valued Patreon member, Airjo, and he says, "Can you predict next week and next year's offensive line after the appearance of Brett Quavale out of nowhere?" John, I want to start with you. What do you think about the O-line?
Why are you giving me this one? I have no idea. I know the interior of the offensive line is crap. Like, what else can I say? At this point, like, I hope Quave gets more snaps. I mean, he didn't look any worse than the rest of them. So, I mean, we've got issues. And maybe they will try and shuffle things around. Maybe move Fulton to center for a little bit. I don't know. Try something else, because what they're doing right now is not working.
Yeah, I think Clemente, I don't think his injury was too serious, so I would expect him to be back out there at left guard next week. Oh, it was a concussion? Oh, never mind then. That probably, depending on how serious it is, he could be out. So yeah, Quavale could take over for the rest of the season, but I don't see him starting. Like, they asked about next season, predicting it, and we got to hope that Sharping can get back to the level of play we saw in his rookie season, because that was a big reason for kind of the optimism we had on the O-line this year. We all knew Tunsil was going to be great. We expected Titus to be great, and we expected Sharping to be great. And his loss is kind of huge. So I would hope that he comes back in at left guard for next season. And I would also hope that Zach Fulton never sees this Energy Stadium whatsoever. Never again. Maybe as a fan, sure, but not as a player. I hope the new GM also sees that.
The only time Vernon Hargraves is a lockdown cornerback is when he's a lock screen on a computer. Oh, get it? Because he fucking sucks.
He sucks. I thought he looked real goofy in this picture. That's the only reason. Oh, man.
Dad jokes come later on in life.
I thought you hated corny.
I do, but that was just too good.
You're anti-corny.
All right, Jordan, go ahead.
If I had said that joke, you would have bitched at me for the next 2 weeks.
I probably would have laughed at you for a little bit.
Alrighty. Next question from our very own Paul Hamlin. Great intern here at TU. Thank you for all the work you do. He asks, where does AJ Moore fit into the safety group when he does return from IR? So he should be back soon. Right now, we haven't been playing as much dime personnel as we were earlier in the season, which is where we were seeing AJ Moore as that third safety. So where do you think James Moore can play a role for the defense?
I mean, I like AJ Moore. I think he can play in the box. I think he can play single high. We saw a lot of him early on in the season before he got hurt. The chemistry wasn't really built at the time. It doesn't look like it's built now either. But at the same time, I doubt he'll get a ton of snaps. It looks like Lonnie and Justin are kind of the future safeties. And I don't see AJ Moore getting a shot. But I love AJ Moore. I said it last year that he was going to make the team, and nobody believed me, and he did. He's got a ton of potential. It's just you need the right coach to be able to get it out of him. And maybe the coaching staff makes the decision to put Lonnie back at corner next year. I think it'd be terrible for his development if that's the case. But let him just ride out safety. But if so, maybe AJ Moore has an opportunity next year.
Yeah, I think as of right now, he's just going to take Michael Thomas's snaps. I think Thomas has been averaging around like 10-15% of the snaps, so nothing really. But I guess he'll make his usual contribution on the special teams, and that's where we'll see his name the most. All right, next one from Martin Marikeen. He says, if you had to pick one, would you prioritize adding better coverage guys in the secondary or improving the defensive line / edge rushers? John, what are your thoughts on kind of that philosophy?
Oh man, so both is not an option. I guess the secondary. If we get better coverage guys, maybe we can get some coverage sacks, maybe. But at this point, even if we improve our secondary, like, dude, that's so bad right now that it's not that hard. It shouldn't be that hard to improve it. So it's almost like, so we go from 32 to 28. So that's technically improving it, but it's not really going to solve anything. We need Roby to get whatever's going on fixed. We got to hope and pray that Gary and Conley, the issue that he's having, gets resolved with his injury. That would be huge, because I think that if we got back to having 2 okay corners, other pieces can kind of fall into place. But right now you have an okay to slightly above okay corner and then trash. And I think the corner is easier to improve, so focus on that first. And then defensive line. I mean, there's some pieces on the defensive line. Like, I mean, we still got the GOAT. JJ's still healthy. Like, I mean, there's potential there for things to happen, but our secondary is just so bad.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, I kind of prioritize when building a roster, I kind of prioritize the trenches on both sides of the ball. And so I get where you're coming from. I think just for me, a pass rush helps out a secondary more than a secondary helps out a pass rush, and they do work hand in hand. But that's just how I view the game. So I think
I don't
definitely getting help on the
saying
edges.
That the defensive line would take more. Like, it's not dropping in one player. Where on the secondary, if you drop in one player, things would get better. On the defensive line, you need to replace at least 3 people, or at least give snaps to 3 people.
And I think that's why I would prioritize it, because there is more work to be done there. Like you said, I believe in Roby. I think he's still going to be a strong corner on this team. And we have Conley right now, and he could want to re-sign with us. And so there you go. There's your starting 2 corners. And we got John Reed, who's developing as a nickel. Hopefully he can be in contention to start there next season. So I think there's already some bodies there. We aren't seeing them because of the injuries. We're stuck with recency bias, with Hargraves, with Gaines, and so it looked real ugly there. But I think there's going to be a lot of turnover on the defensive line this offseason, and so I think that's where I would prioritize it. But I see where you're coming from. All right, next one from at Rap Sheets. He says, how likely are they winning these next 3 games? And if they do, what's the impact on the team? I think they could, seeing as they have the better quarterback, but it comes down to the offensive line and the defense producing enough stops. So, James, how are your thoughts and feelings on these next 3 games? And what does it mean if we do get the dub?
Is it Browns, Colts, Pats?
I think it's Browns, Pats, Colts, but yeah.
Browns, Pats, Colts. Okay. I think we can beat the Browns. I really do. I know that their rushing attack is just dynamic and all that good stuff, but I do think that we can score faster than they can. And Baker is prone to turn the ball over. And I do think that that'll happen even within the worst secondary in NFL history. So I think that we can beat the Browns. I think we can beat the Pats. I don't think the Pats are very good. Jets had their first double-digit lead of 2 seasons or something like that. So I think we can beat the Pats. I don't think we can beat the Colts. I think that defense is something else, to be honest with you. And I think they're just going to get better.
Yep.
The 2 losses I have for sure are the 2 games against the Colts.
Definitely. All right. So I guess you talked about kind of what our chances are. And then the other part of the question I think was what does it mean for the team if we do win these 3 games? And I think obviously I guess the playoffs there's still a shot if we do win these next 3 games.
We get the Lions before the Colts, by the way.
Oh, Lions.
Okay.
Oh, then
that's
yeah,
a winnable game.
So it's very realistic for us to win the next 3 games.
And then we'll be sitting at 5-6, and the AFC is the tougher conference this year, so it's still going to be tough to make it into that 8th spot. But the playoff hopes are still alive. If we do, we have to run the table basically. But winning those 3 is definitely the start, and it can basically what it'll do for like the team like culture is it's just going to keep that winning culture. Like no one wants, the players don't want to have to quit on the season. They still want to win games. You don't want to go into work every day and be upset to be there and be losing. You know what I mean? So it's gonna keep the morale up. All right, next question from our friend Cody Johnson. He says, is the coach or GM hire more important? Also, your favorite GM at Dodds. John, what do you think? What are you going with first? You got to hire the GM or the coach?
I think it has to be the right GM. I think that really was kind of put out there by the whole situation with Bill O'Brien. And if you have the right coach that's established, GMs become more expendable. But right now, I think that they're going to have to come in and essentially rebuild like that entire front office. Like this isn't a front office that's just moving along. Like we have the character coach as our acting GM. Like our front office is absolutely decimated. Like it needs to be rebuilt. So you need a GM to come in and do all that, getting our scouting departments up to speed and corrected, get our player personnel corrected. And then that way you can bring and our contracts guys corrected. Definitely after some of these contracts that have been doled out. And then the coach can come in. Now, if it's the right coach in 4 years, the GM can be replaced, whatever. But if it's not but right now, considering where we're at, I think it starts with the GM because we need to get our personnel right. And it doesn't matter who the coach is if we can't get our personnel right.
Absolutely. I think you said it perfectly. Like you're even seeing the, what am I saying? Like Robert Saleh, like everyone loves him as a defensive coordinator, but he can only do so much with all the injuries that the 49ers have accumulated this season. And so talent will still, at the end of the day, win out. It doesn't matter how good of a coach or coordinator you have. You still got to have the talent on the field. And so I'm with you all the way. I think GM got to be first so that he gets all of his guys so that they're all on the same page, all have the same identity. So yeah, I'm definitely with you there. All right, next question from Grayson Holmberg. He says, will Keon Crossan play more or is Hargrave still the guy? What are your thoughts on Crossan, James?
I liked the effort that I saw from him in the minimal snaps he played. The whole thing with him is he can't be worse.
Yep.
That's the position we find ourselves in. He can't be worse. So roll him out there at the end of the day. There's no reason not to. He's been he was on the roster last year too, right? Yeah. And he never really got many snaps. And when he did, he actually made some plays last year. So I'd rather see Crossan out there than Gaines. I think Gaines should be cut. I think he might be literally the worst cornerback to ever play or line up in a Texans jersey in the history of the Houston Texans. Saying a lot. We've had a lot of bad ones.
There's a good Hall of Fame you can make of it. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Yeah, so my thoughts on Crossan, I thought he tackled better than Hargraves did and then Gaines did. And then I remembered that last touchdown that the quarterback ran it in and he hit him with a spin move. He hit Crossan with it, and that broke my heart. Because I like Crossan. I like the fire that he plays with energy, like you said. I think Hargraves, as long as his injury isn't too major, I think he'll still be the guy. That's clearly who they trust for whatever the reason. But we shall see. I'd like to see John Reed get a try. Maybe not on the outside. I think they're trying to keep him in the nickel right now just so that he's not doing too much. And that's where I have Eric Murray. So I get why they're kind of not playing him, but give the kid a shot. Might as well. All right. We'll get 2 more and then we'll get out of here. From Gunter Sports, he says, would you put a claim on Takk McKinley? I don't know if you guys talked about this yet, but he's a low risk, high reward kind of guy. John, Takk McKinley, what are we doing?
Yeah, I think it was just a bad situation for him. I mean, at this point, we definitely could use some talent. We got to take some. I think we do have to take some of those high risk guys. I mean, yeah, he's high risk, but he has a high ceiling. So yeah, he may come in. He may be. He was a clubhouse cancer in Atlanta. Maybe needs a fresh, just a a change of scenery. Rack players always seem to love Romeo, so maybe he could reach him because the guy showed talent his first 2 years, and then he just fell off a cliff. And lots of times that's the situation. And yeah, well, I mean, if you read his Twitter, he seems like he is, Tony. He seems like he is an ass, but sometimes that can be fixed. Sometimes that's just a guy being super competitive and super frustrated. And who knows what was going on in Atlanta? They're not exactly doing great. They just fired their head coach in front office as well. So, yeah, he's one of those guys that I think that, yeah, it is a risk, but it's a risk worth taking because, I mean, we need talent.
Yeah, he's the exact type of player that we need to go after. I think to talk to a lot of people like to say that he's like a diva if you talk to a lot of Falcons fans. And I think maybe diva is not the right word, but he's a very emotional person. And if you search up his interview when he first got drafted on draft night, like he is screaming. He is so hyped up. He's so excited. He's talking about all his inspirations and everything. Like he's clearly an emotional dude. And I don't think Atlanta was the right place to kind of coach him up and kind of hone those emotions and get them really out on the field on a consistent basis. And we don't know if the Texans are either. That's the problem. When have we ever shown the ability to kind of take in a guy like that and kind of get him controlled and playing well on the field, right? We don't know because we've never taken a shot on those types of guys. So hopefully with this kind of transition period into a new era, they do take a shot at him because like John said, he's a very talented guy.
Real quick, Jordan. I think also a part that people are overlooking with Tack is the fact that he's also under contract next year. And I think a year after that, possibly. I think his 5th-year option is the year after that. You're talking about a team decimated with no draft capital to address an issue of need and providing a first-round talent to a new GM and head coach who lacks a first-round draft pick and a second-round draft pick next year. So if you're looking at a player that you could potentially bring in that could possibly develop, and even if it is only 2 years, it's worth the risk to set up the next regime for success, potential success, if you can bottle up that emotion and develop him and get him to be the player that he should have been. Because coming out of college, he was a stud. And, I think when you look at what the situation this team is in, it makes all the sense in the world to grab him and keep him on the roster in hopes that you can turn it around.
Yeah, I think some people are saying in the chat that he's a free agent after this season. But I definitely see where you're coming from. We need young, we need cheap talent, and it's at a position of need. We need edge defenders like we talked about earlier. So I definitely am with you. All right, last question here from @Legion of Mutants, and he says Lonnie's potential as a box safety. I was watching some of his film. I put out some clips just on this past Jaguars game, and we know that Lonnie, he's been the single high safety, right? This season, that's clearly where they want him to be. And in my opinion, they're trying to kind of hide him there because as a single high, like it's a very important part of the defense, but you're also just not targeted that much because teams aren't just going to be throwing a deep ball willy-nilly, right? So that's where they're trying to have him there so he can make the transition to safety. And there's less reads with the run game going on when you're in the free safety as in the box. But what are your thoughts on Lonnie at either position of safety, John?
I don't know. At this point, like I still think that he's talented, but he's absolutely clueless out there, and you can tell. Like he's been put in a bad spot. We talked about him at length already earlier in the podcast, but pretty much just to summarize it for any of y'all that are just joining, is he's been done dirty by the coaching staff. Like this is a guy that practiced at corner. He came in expecting to be a corner. He was brought in to be a man corner. And now you've got him playing single high safety where his responsibilities and where his eyes are completely different. It's not that this easy one-to-one transition, and they put him in single high, asking him to rely on his athleticism to make up for what he does not know. Like I think a little bit of them hiding him there isn't because they're wanting him not to be targeted. I think they're putting him out there because it's one of those places where his speed and his strength and his ability to tackle, he doesn't have to worry as much about not knowing what's going on. But you still see it. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know how to read a play yet. And I mean, maybe he'll get there, but he hasn't. I mean, he hasn't been prepared for it. They just kind of dropped him out there, and they're just hoping that his athleticism will take care of it, and that's being done dirty by the coaching staff.
Absolutely, yeah. I think watching him play, you can tell that he's kind of just watching the play happen and then reacting to it. There's no anticipation whatsoever. And it's hard to develop that. It's hard to have that as a cornerback coming out of college. It's definitely hard learning that from going from cornerback to safety. Like you said, they've been doing him absolutely dirty. They're having the potential of ruining his career. He's still a young guy. They still got to give him a shot, obviously. But it's not looking good early on. And I like the move of moving him to box safety instead of single high. I think right now you're seeing that his pursuit angles as a single high safety, when he does get targeted, he can't make the right angle on the tackle when you're that deep. And there's a lot more risk involved when he is back there because he's saving touchdowns or not. And we saw Justin Reed be so good in that role at saving touchdowns, at having the correct pursuit angle. And maybe we took it for granted because now we moved him back into permanent in the box safety. And I think Rack even said it in his presser, like, we like Justin Reed as a box safety. So I don't see them moving him anytime to box safety, but that's what I would do if I was the coach. All right, that's it for the questions. Thank you, guys. You can always get at me on Twitter. And if you're a Patreon member, you get priority in questions. So check out that.
All right. Jordan, you are the man. Appreciate you as always. What videos you got coming up?
I just did a film breakdown for the Jags game. That's going to be it for the videos. I'll have an article. I don't know what I'm going to write about yet, but I'll have like an article this week.
Good luck. Good luck finding something to write about.
Yeah.
If it's not GM or head coach related, just put it in your trapper keeper. All right, guys. Make sure you guys go to manscaped.com. Use promo code Texans. I have ball wipes for every single Texans Unfiltered member. I'll be sending you guys some ball wipes. And for Patrick Storm, I got you the new and improved Weed Whacker 3.0. You guys go to manscaped.com, use promo code Texans. I saw that beautiful picture of Pat and his family that he posted today, and I figured they probably aren't going to have another one because he needs the Weed Whacker 3.0 before she ever wants to go down there. So I thought I'd help him out and make sure he was happy, make sure she got what she needed, and we could keep it moving. So with that being said, I am James signing off for Texans Unfiltered. We will catch you guys next week.